Hello and welcome back to In Defense of a Movie Podcast. And on this episode, we are diving into 2024's Atlas. Aaron, peace to the fallen to you.
I got a question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
Pie or cake?
Usually pie. I'm more of a pie guy. How about you?
Oh, I like them both. But I also hate them both.
Do you like your coffee black with 3 sugars?
I definitely like to have my cake and eat it too.
Well, it looks like J-Lo did too in this movie. My goodness. Aaron.
Yeah.
Atlas is sitting on Rotten Tomatoes at 19%, and the audience rating is 46%. It is PG-13, hour and 58-minute, $100 million Netflix blockbuster. Man, that's a lot to say.
Yeah, I think it went number 1 for a couple weeks there on Netflix as well.
Yeah, the most recent stat I could find was in June. As of June 5th, 2024, it had 60 million global views and 119.4 million viewing hours. And I'm not sure how much to trust those numbers because that's from Netflix, and I don't know if there's any tomfoolery behind the scenes. I kind of assume there is, but apparently it had an 80% finish rate, which means 80% of the people that started it actually watched it through to completion, which is a really funny stat, but that's what they say.
I too have an 87% finish rate. Sorry. You can cut that out if you want.
It's pretty funny. You might recall in one of our earlier episodes, I talked about the tongue-in-cheek kind of 10-minute rule I have about movies where if they say the title of the movie in the first 10 minutes, chances are it's not going to be a quality film. And lo and behold, before we're even through the opening credits, we got Atlas.
But does that count if it's her name?
Well, there might be some gray area there.
Yeah.
Aaron, let's run down the cast.
So we got Jennifer Lopez as Atlas. I guess in this movie, there's only really 4 characters you got to know.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez as Atlas, Simu as Harlan Shepard, Sterling K. Brown as Colonel Elias Banks, and Gregory James Cohen, who voices Smith.
Yeah. And a little shout out too to Mark Strong as the general, because I liked his character. This was directed by Brad Payton, who directed Rampage and San Andreas, most notably, both the Dwayne Johnson vehicles. And you really get a sense of his fingerprints on this movie.
I said to people that, I think Avatar is probably the most complicated film you could make because most of the reality is invented. And then I'd say we're the shelf below that, where it's incredibly complicated because almost all of our reality is augmented.
Definitely. I thought that watching it the whole entire time.
It's weird to me, Aaron, because it's like $100 million big dumb popcorn blockbuster, but people are going to be watching this on their phones, on their Nintendo Switches, on their 6-year-old tablets, whatever, right? This is a Netflix show. It's sort of a first of its kind, and I found it pretty fascinating for a few reasons. Aaron, you introduced me to this movie. What were your thoughts on it when you first watched it?
So the reason why I was sort of intrigued by this movie, just because at the time there was a lot of controversy going around Jennifer Lopez with her new album that came out recently this year. And then earlier as well, she was going on a world tour, and I guess she canceled it because ticket sales were doing poorly. And then also there was just her romance with Ben Affleck that has also been very turbulent throughout this time. So just seemed like there was just a lot going on. And so for me, it was just, I wanted to watch this movie because it seemed like I wanted to see what everybody was kind of saying about her. Yeah. There was also some reports at some point where she got bullied off of the internet. Upon doing a deeper dive, it was let me just say, I feel that Jennifer Lopez might be a little bit of a hot mess. But I mean that in the best way possible. Dan and I, we were texting earlier, and I was saying, I feel like we've come full circle doing this movie after, in one of our previous episodes, we've done Geely.
Yeah.
So it's the second Jennifer Lopez movie that we've done here. And not only does it feel full circle, but because of the whole Bennifer thing going on, and that's kind of like how that movie came about.
Yeah.
And then this movie kind of like, because I guess in their relationship, they got back together and they were married. And she came out with a documentary called The Greatest Love Story Never Told, I believe.
Yeah.
And people just ripped her apart for that, calling her fake, calling her like not genuine, saying that like she's just telling a story that nobody wants to hear. So she definitely has fell out of favor with the common folk here. And I think that also was part of the reason of what like like a bit of that bled into this movie here.
I always feel like the movies I do somehow mirror where I'm at in my life and also kind of help to push me forward into the next chapter.
You know, for somebody worth an estimated $400 million, this last year has, by all accounts, been awful for J-Lo.
Mm-hmm.
I like both.
Sorry?
When we first met, you asked me if I like pie or cake. I don't care, I like both. And it's not that I hate AI, Smith. The truth is, I don't actually like anybody.
J-Lo's been through a lot, so I think it's our job to maybe defend J-Lo a little bit in this movie. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like, there's watching this movie, I've seen it twice now, so probably that's like once more than a lot of people out there have seen it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But no, the second time around, like, I want to say I kind of understood her character a little bit more. And also, doing like, sometimes you tend to go into a movie, like obviously not knowing anything about the movie. But in doing a little bit of research on this, I think it, I don't know, it kind of gave me like a new lens to look at this movie.
I like it. I like where this is going. Well,
okay.
To frame up our discussion, why don't you tell us what Atlas is about, and then we'll dive into the specifics here.
So it's about Atlas, who is the character played by Jennifer Lopez, and she's on a journey to find a really good cup of coffee. And that's what this whole entire movie is basically about.
Yeah.
No, so basically it's your classic AI taking over humans versus the AI. Think of iRobot, Terminator. I feel that it pulls a lot of influences from other movies.
I mean, I think there was two very specific ones, and actually one of them I remember, and I didn't think about it when I was doing Atlas, but Terminator 2 with Linda Hamilton. I don't know if you guys remember that film.
One of the reasons why I love Cameron, right, is Aliens, where he works with Sigourney and then Linda Hamilton in Terminator, and the tone that he makes and how awesome he makes female badass women. You're just like, that guy is the greatest at doing this. And so, yeah, those are the two excellent touchstones.
Jennifer Lopez, when she's young, her mom creates she doesn't create artificial intelligence, but I think she creates the ability to connect like a human brain to artificial intelligence, which is odd because it's called Neuralink, which isn't that the exact same thing as Elon Musk's Neuralink?
Yeah, and this started filming in 2022, so there's that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that like no one said anything about that. But yeah, so she develops this Neuralink to help connect people to the AI, and the AI goes insane and tries to commit mass genocide and take out the entire human race.
Yeah.
And so it's basically a journey to stop that AI from committing mass genocide.
Yeah, the AI flees Earth and kind of inexplicably goes to the Andromeda Galaxy, to hunker down and, I guess, rebuild and scheme and get ready to launch an attack back on the citizens of Earth.
Yeah.
And so J-Lo and company, they fly out there and confront them in these mech suits, I suppose. They're called arcs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's a very important part there. The arc suits, which are these mech suits, and they have AI in them, and also they are linked with the operators. So throughout the entire movie, once they reach the Andromeda, the planet in the Andromeda galaxy there, their ship is like crashing, and she gets into one of these mech suits and then is pretty much in it the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
I would say is what it feels like, and basically is just a back and forth with the AI that's in there, who is again voiced by Gregory James Cohen. And yeah, basically she just has this huge distrust in AI because of her like childhood trauma. And I want to say a good portion of this movie is just her arguing back and forth with the AI and like the AI trying to get her to like trust it.
Yeah, totally. The heart and soul of the film is her slowly bonding and letting her guard down with this AI. And then us learning more about her character and her motivations through the unveiling of that in that process.
Yeah.
While she explores this Helldivers map looking for Harlan.
Yeah. Pretty much.
My character Atlas is used to shutting out the world and going it alone. She learns that it's only by letting someone in, and that someone happens to be an AI, that she can heal the pain from her past. And that's the bravest, most beautiful thing you can do for yourself and for others, is to take those walls down.
Probably a good place to start is on Jennifer Lopez herself.
Okay.
She's rightly named Atlas because she has not only the world on her shoulders, but the entire film on her shoulders in a way. She was a producer, and yeah, her dialogue and her screen time is through the roof.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you what you thought of her performance.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was, I think this, like, to put it politely, I think this movie was about a half hour too long.
Yeah.
There was definitely, like, the thing about Jennifer Lopez and, like, the movies that she's been so successful in have always been, like, rom-coms, right? Where she has another actor and she gets to play off that actor and, like, build chemistry. And not only does the other, like, actor help carry her a bit, but, like, you know, she flourishes in that role as well. This movie had her just one-on-one, like there wasn't another person. It was just talking to a voice, right?
Yeah.
And I just think it wasn't her, like, cup of tea. It wasn't her, like, usual style of acting. And I don't know, like, I think it takes a special type of person to be able to do, like, this type of acting, you know, in a green room. From what I was reading, it seems like it was just a voice recording that she would just go back and forth with. And apparently at times there was, like, Ben Affleck even would read some of the lines for her to, like, to invoke a little bit more, like, emotion in her. So, and I was also reading things about the director here as well. In a couple interviews, he blatantly stated, like, the best way that he could work with her is just put a bunch of cameras around her and just, like, let her go and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, that's both good and bad. Like, it's good if you flourish in that sort of situation. But I would say out of all the talents that Jennifer Lopez, like, possesses, maybe acting is, like, at the bottom, right? So, yeah, sorry, my, like, long-winded explanation of what I thought of her acting in this movie.
You try to find the similarities to things that you have, you know, gone through in your own life, but also kind of your imagination, especially in a movie like this where there's tons of green screen, your imagination has to kind of run wild.
I think the most diplomatic thing I can say about her performance is that it just felt uneven. In some parts, she was great, and she was, you know, really carrying the weight of it. And in other parts, I just found her line delivery so cringy that I kind of wanted to just, like like you said, just turtle into my sweater and not have to watch anymore. It was like a little bit of secondhand embarrassment, which is unfortunate.
And that's what I mean by I think that this movie was just a little bit too long, like a little bit too many scenes of her just going back and forth arguing. And if they just cut her screen time like a little bit, I feel like this movie would be a world's difference.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the thing that's so wild about this movie is this year, Jennifer Lopez is 55 years old. So at the time of filming this, I think she was 53. And she spent about 8 weeks in a gimbal with 4 cameras on her at all time, doing all of these movements. And it won't surprise anybody to learn that like 90% of this movie is shot just on a soundstage with a green screen. Very few physical sets. And so she's being tossed around. She's delivering lines. She doesn't even have sight lines. She's literally just performing like 8 hours a day, getting rocked around. Doesn't really have context for a lot of what's happening for 8 weeks straight. And I feel like that would be a tall order for any actor.
We got the mech suit 2 days before we put cameras on it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we had tons of research time, you know? So I didn't let Jan or anyone know that, but I'm sitting there going, okay, how do we do this? Like literally, how do we physically do this?
I went home exhausted every night just from the takes that we would do. And I would just be like, ugh, so exhausted because I had to kind of really like throw myself around and be hyperventilating.
The problems of this movie are kind of beyond just her performance. There's a lot of script issues that really jumped out at me, and a lot of, for lack of a better word, just a lot of dumb stuff, Aaron.
Yeah, no, there really was. Like, I thought that this movie was very, very ambitious.
Yes.
This director, he's trying to make an entire world, right?
Yeah.
And you have 2 hours to build a world and make us care about your characters. And unfortunately, I think he maybe overreached a little bit because it was just too much.
It was so exhausting to kind of stay at this level of adrenaline of like, your life is over, you have to save the planet, you're in a life and death situation the whole entire time, that at the end of the day, I would just be so exhausted, not just emotionally, but physically, like from just like tensing up my body and throwing myself this way and that way and doing all these things and trying to concentrate and seeing things that weren't there and all these kinds of stuff.
What would you have done differently, Dan?
I think it just goes back to the script.
Yeah.
I don't mind the largeness and the scope of the film, but there was this huge exposition dump at the beginning of the movie. Like, we're not even through credits. Like, this movie has the most jam-packed, insane first 15 minutes I've seen in a long time, where you're taking in all this different information. You're being told that Harlan's a threat, but we're never really shown him being a threat. And it just, the exposition just gets heaped on your shoulders before you're even introduced to a primary character. And so I think it comes down to reorganizing the structure, like kind of a back to square one approach. Neat ideas, but there's so many little oversights about how all of this might work. I don't see why he had to flee to the Andromeda galaxy that, you know, despite it saying what it says about the technology of the times that this movie is set in, it doesn't add to the story. He could have just as well gone to like Mars or something. I don't know why we had to get right. Like, there's a lot of planets in the Milky Way. I don't know why he felt he had to leave.
Yeah.
But he did. And so there's just a lot of things to me that were a little bit like, you don't want to make your audience scratch your heads when you're trying to build, like world build. It would have to go back to the script, unfortunately. Not necessarily a clean slate. Like, even the cast. Like, I feel like with a different director and a little less ambition, you know, J-Lo, I just feel like I got a sense in the interviews that the director was almost a little bit afraid to even call her out.
Okay.
Like, maybe he was a little bit starstruck by her and she was bringing her personal life to work every day. And, you know, I just feel like maybe he was walking on eggshells and didn't actually engage with her in a constructive way to get the performance that she needed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, when you say, like, I just put her in the front of a bunch of cameras and let her go wild, and you're like, I don't know. I don't know if you're necessarily, like, getting the best reaction out of her, or you're just, like, hoping for the best.
The movie's shot in pieces. And most movies are shot in pieces, but those pieces are scenes. I mean, the movie's shot in pieces, where it's like these 4 setups are on Jennifer, and this setup over here is on Jennifer, except the wilderness hasn't been recorded yet. So we had a very, very detailed approach where we listed every element in different colors so we knew what was going to be recorded when and how. And really, it was like the single biggest challenge to keep straight in your head, because I had to think about this one little piece here of Casca flying inside of the storm, for example, and just do those 2 shots. And then I would shoot Jen months later and be like, okay, he's shooting at you. There's your eye line. And then I would give her things like to hold, to react so she could get inside of the scene.
A lot of what she's doing and saying, she performed it out of context, and then it got stitched together in post. And I don't think, it's funny because we just watched Alien Romulus that was filmed in sequence with practical sets. And just the stark contrast between these 2 methods of storytelling is just, it's enough to make your head spin. It's like, I don't think that was the way to approach this.
There is one thing that I'd like to kind of defend in her acting. Because in this character, her character in this movie, she's very, like, dramatic, to say the least. And absolutely, like, hates AI. And everyone else is kind of looking at her like she's not crazy. Or she is crazy, sorry. And to me, I was just thinking, like, this doesn't make sense in this movie. So you're telling me that there's this rogue AI android on the loose and converting other people, trying to commit mass genocide, but all the human race is still trusting AI enough to, like, link their brains with it? I feel like that's a major plot hole in this movie. The fact that everybody's so chill with AI, but AI is trying to kill everyone. So I was thinking, like, her reaction to everything that is going on is a bit justified. And when it gets to the scene when it's sort of explaining how Harlan overcame his programming and stuff, like, that's some very traumatic things that happened there. With her mom being taken over by Harlan, and, like, her mom was forced to take a gun and point it at herself and also shoot at her as, like, a young kid. Those are very traumatic events. Like, you're gonna be over the top crazy, not trusting AI if, like, AI tried to kill you when you were a kid. So I kind of, in some kind of weird way, I think her acting was very justified. And in another weird way, I think that although she seems like the most crazy character in this movie, she is probably actually the most sane person in not trusting AI.
Yeah, it's funny that I'm realizing that in a lot of modern movies, there's so many protagonists that have experienced insane traumas on screen.
Yeah.
But the audience doesn't feel them or react to them. It's almost like we're strangely desensitized. And that word came up to me a few times, even when I was thinking about the special effects, but we'll get to that. It's just like our Wicker Man discussion where Nicolas Cage has been to the gates of hell and back, and then everyone thinks his freakouts are funny. And, his character. And it's kind of like, I felt the same vibe here where it was like, yeah, exactly like you said, horrible childhood trauma. And then she thinks everyone's insane for acting normal about all this.
Yeah.
There's this scene in the hangar where she's briefing all of the ARC pilots. And it's very reminiscent of Aliens, where Ripley is briefing the Colonial Marines.
We also have Ripley's report on disk. I suggest you study it.
Because just one of those things managed to wipe out my entire crew in less than 24 hours. And if the colonists have found that ship, then there's no telling how many of them have been exposed. Do you understand?
Anyway, we have it on disk, so you better look at it.
I know Harlan. And I know him well. And he used an early version of that Neuralink that you're all so proud of to reprogram himself to wipe out humanity. You can't trust any AI. And as long as you're synced up with one of these arts, I'm not even sure that you can trust yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Agent Shepard, for that deeply unsettling briefing.
I never looked at it as like, this is the continuation of Ripley, but I also am very aware that I loved those movies.
The other character that I really loved and that Brad and I spoke about very much while we were filming was Ripley in Alien.
She hands them all paper, and they're all making fun of her, like, oh, where'd you find a printer? But the thing I thought was so funny about that scene was, even if they take out their neural links, as soon as they put them back in, the AI is going to be able to read their memories and everything that they just read, and then they'll be back.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, no, I really like that scene too, because when she walked out with paper, I thought in my head, like, why does she have paper? And then they said it, and then I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But no, that makes a lot of sense, Dad. It, like, just don't trust AI.
Just don't trust AI, and yet use AI to fight AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a prequel to The Matrix in a really extraordinarily clunky way.
Oh, so did you pick up on the AI being named Smith as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this movie's not subtle, man.
So, is this like a precursor to The Matrix?
Yes.
Is this set in the same world?
Either that or Terminator.
I mentioned I was Canadian. James Cameron's Canadian. Mm-hmm. When I was 13, I saw Terminator 2, like to put it in context of like my age and how his films affected me. And when I saw James Cameron as a kid, I was like, oh, wait, Canadians can go to Hollywood and do this? Like, it never crossed my mind. And he, I think, with Sarah Connor and with Ripley, he has such a strong approach to strong female leads, and I loved that.
This movie frustrates me because imagine having $100 million to tell your sci-fi story.
Mm-hmm.
You've assembled an Oscar-winning cinematographer. You've hired out an astounding amount of visual artists, technicians. You have the talent of people like Jennifer Lopez, Mark Strong, people like this, Sterling K. Brown, Simu Liu.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get it. I don't understand. I really wish this movie was better. I really, really do.
Yeah.
It's too easy to just kind of like throw this movie in the bin of like Netflix watching the background movies.
Yeah. But you know what I will say about this movie is that the fact that it is on a streaming service, and I'm sure you are right that Netflix probably isn't releasing what their actual numbers are. Mm-hmm. But I like that the fact that a studio is going out of its way to create something this ambitious, right?
Yeah.
Because typically a studio like, I don't know, say Warner Brothers or something like that won't take a chance on this movie unless there's going to be a big return, right?
Yeah.
But since this is being released on streaming services, it doesn't matter whether it sucks or not. And as much as I want to hate this movie and say that, like, it's not that great, it is kind of almost a pioneer in a sense for the movie genre. Mm-hmm. Like an explosion, action-packed, green room movie, which I think is going to become probably a lot more popular because I'm assuming that studios are saving quite a bit more money when they just start filming in one room and they don't really have to jump to set locations or go to different countries to film.
Yeah, it's very economical in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so if this movie was released to cinemas, do you think it would have turned a profit?
No.
I got that impression too after watching it. I feel like word of mouth would not have done it any favors.
No, I think it would have been even worse for Jennifer Lopez's career.
I agree. I agree with that.
But that's the beauty of it being released on a streaming platform, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, that is something we'll have to look into a little bit. Like when streaming services hire studios or make their own films there, like how exactly do they make the profit? Because I'm assuming it all comes from streaming, right?
Yeah, I assume it's all from streaming or ad revenue on the lower
Yeah,
tiers and
ad
things
revenue.
like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I believe that J-Lo actually threw some of her own money into this.
That makes sense.
It became kind of like a comfort place for me. We had the mech suit and we had different ones, right? Like there was ones that were very stationary and then there was ones that were kind of like on these hydraulics and that would move. It's hard to do it at first and work without other actors. It's like it's all on you. There's like no X factors. It's just you.
One of the things I want to defend is the visual effects.
Okay.
And there's a big caveat to this, and I'll explain in a second. So 90% of this movie is visual effects shots. Every single scene has some sort of visual effect. And then I watched through the credits, and it was just studio after studio after studio, big long lists of names, all responsible for working on this film. And the thing is, especially post-COVID, a lot of these visual effects studios, I know especially a few in Vancouver where a lot of visual effect work gets done, visual effects artists typically work on contract. Like the studio lands a contract with the movie. A big blockbuster movie will rarely give one visual effects house the entire film. They always distribute it because of timelines. Like this studio works on these shots, this studio works on those shots. And one of the things I really want to defend about this movie, especially because of the times we're living in right now, is, and sounds so funny at first, but I think you'll understand what I mean, is that this movie created so many jobs for people. Like I have more than a passing interest in visual effects. I even thought about getting into that industry back in like 2017 or 18. I went so far as I actually even got accepted into Lost Boys School of Visual Effects here in Vancouver because the job I'd moved down to Vancouver for kind of went belly up. But I ended up landing another gig and one thing led to another and I ended up not pursuing it. And I'm kind of glad I did because then COVID hit and the entire visual effects industry kind of got rocked by lack of work and then rocked again by the strikes. And it's just been this roller coaster ride for anybody in this industry since. And I've talked to a few people that work in the industry and it's been like feast or famine lately. So to see a movie like this where literally hundreds of visual effects artists got paid and were able to support themselves, there's more than a few impressive CGI shots in this movie. And let me tell you, CGI artists, they don't really care one way or the other about the quality of the film so long as they have stuff to work on. So, good on Netflix for taking a huge swing on such a visual effects heavy movie and sourcing so many studios all around the place, all around the world to work on this thing. I thought that was really, really cool.
Experience the incredible visual effects of Atlas only on Netflix.
Yeah, like you said, Dan, I'm a fan of this. I'm a fan of these types of movies, especially coming from streaming services.
Yeah.
Because, obviously they're trying to all add content to their streaming services, and like that's the big thing now. But I feel that they need to, much like how Disney has their formula for the MCU there and how they make their movies, like there needs to be some sort of formula that streaming services they find for making these movies. Because if you could just, get a couple of this movie, if you trimmed it down a little bit, maybe added like a little bit more of a menacing villain, not that Harlan or Simu Liu did a bad job, but he just was flat for me, I think. Yeah. I think he worked with maybe not much direction.
And I was throwing that thing around, and credit to the wonderful people at VFX for taking my nonsensical movements and attaching this really badass whip to it.
He just came off a little emotionless. And I guess maybe he was trying to come off emotionless because he is an AI android, so
he just didn't have enough to work with.
What did you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like he didn't get enough screen time and he didn't have enough to work with. And it was one of those, show me, don't tell me. Like if he's a big threat, show me him being a big threat. Don't just tell me he's the bad guy. It was very kind of like a James Bond movie approach where he was kind of like the mustache twirling villain who just shows up at the end, explains away his whole dastardly plan and then disappears. Yeah. It's just like, come on, man. Like we should be past this by now. And so I liked his turn as a bad guy, as a villain. I really did. But
Yeah.
I needed more of them.
Caro Rodriguez pregunta para Simu.
Whoa, really?
Yes, you got your own question.
¿Verdad? ¿Por mí?
Para ti.
From Brazil. What is it like to work with Jennifer Lopez, who's often regarded as the premier action actress of our century?
It's amazing.
Maybe like a half hour less of Jennifer Lopez, fighting with the AI, and maybe about a half hour more of Harlan just wrecking humans or something like that, or just being an actual villain.
Yeah, or maybe even wrecking other AIs. Like, why are these other AIs following him?
Yeah.
Could we not have seen like a rally, where he's like stoking them all up for the big plan? There just wasn't any of that. There wasn't any of the conventional bad guy stuff. It was just
a little too predictable as well.
Oh, 100%.
Simu rehearsed with the stunt team for about 2 weeks, and we used his footage wherever we could. And when we couldn't, we match animated him exactly.
I think the only thing that surprised me in this movie was when they introduced the concept of the ion bomb. I was like, oh, that's the Chekhov's pistol. That's going to come up later in the climax of the film. But no, they used it 5 minutes later. I was like, oh, okay. I thought that was going to be the saving grace. And nope, we're going to use it right away.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned that there was a caveat I had to the special effects, or the VFX. And I wanted to, before I mention it, because I'm not sure if you noticed it or not, but what did you overall think of the visual effects in this movie?
To be honest, I probably don't pay attention too much to visual effects as long as it's good enough. I'm okay with that. And for me, this, I think, was better than good enough. Like, I know that first 15 minutes where when I first watched it, I was like, oh, like, whoa, like, what am I watching here?
Yeah.
And I kind of was obviously very intrigued. And then, honestly, this movie just goes down when she gets into that robot. But but once she gets into the mech suit, but like prior to that, you're like, whoa, what's happening? Like, this is genuinely looks interesting.
So I think there's several really stunning visual effects shots. It's, again, like J-Lo's performance, it's uneven because there's a scene in the hangar where a mech suit, one of the ARC suits, walks directly through a human. It like clips right through them. And I at first I thought I imagined it, or like they were a hologram or something, but no, I rewound it, and I kid you not, this ARC suit walks directly through a human being that's standing right there.
I definitely missed that.
The ARC suit says, "Excuse me," or something like that, and just clips right through them. And holy cow, I haven't seen something like that in a long time in a movie of this caliber. But at the same time, I thought the planet looked fantastic, and the foliage and I had a hard time figuring out the biomes of this planet because it seemed like the terrain and the biome of this planet changed every 30 seconds. Like, it felt like it was a winter planet, then it was a rocky planet, then it was a forested area. And like, there was certain visual effects in this movie that took them 2 years of solid work. All the shots of the futuristic LA. So I feel like we're really desensitized to visual effects at our age in our, in movies now.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't seem to matter how good they are, how interesting they are, how much depth is to them, how good the lighting is, how much is going on screen. There's more than a few people just crapping all over this movie, and a lot, like hundreds and hundreds of people that worked really hard on it behind the scenes, and their work and the quality of their craftsmanship is getting totally overlooked because of some funny thing that Jennifer Lopez says in a mech suit. It's really too bad.
Aren't you going to ask me if I like pie or cake?
I already know the answer.
They had these 4 cameras trained on the mech suit that J-Lo was acting in, and it's on a gimbal for the most part. And so they had to match those camera moves of the mech suit in the virtual environment and then essentially build the scene around her. And in a lot of movies, when they show somebody in the cockpit of a CGI ship or a mech suit, like I noticed this a lot in like the first Avatar, their movements look really janky and unrealistic, or like in Matrix Revolutions, You know, that anytime I see someone in a mech suit, it always looks so cartoony and janky. But in this movie, just seeing how far that technology has come, like there were certain moments when I really believed that she was in the cockpit of this thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of forgot that she was on a green screen set for a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So I definitely want to defend that.
I don't take the approach of how do we pull this off? I take the approach of here's what I'm imagining. Can somebody please tell me how to make this?
Okay,
You
that's
know,
fair.
Well, because the thing about it is like I'm hiring really like world-class technicians, and I don't want to dictate to them how to do their job.
You know what else I will say? If we were just to compare this movie to Madam Web, this movie, even though it has some, CGI errors, but it does not nearly have as many continuity errors as Madam Web did.
No.
That is a good thing for these sort of movies because they're filmed on a green screen. And when you already got a movie that has lots of controversy around it, and then the acting's not so great, and it's overly ambitious, and then you throw in a bunch of continuity errors in there, it just like takes it to another level of bad.
Yeah.
And so in this movie, I kind of appreciated that, like in my mind, I think they did a pretty decent job. And no movie is going to be perfect. Like, I don't think there's one movie out there that like has a perfect flow from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I like that about I like the fact that I'm really in favor of these green screen movies for streaming services anyways.
It kind of reminds me of the volume system that Disney and Lucasfilm used for the first couple of Mandalorian seasons, where it's the invisible style effect that just helps the show stay economical and you focus on the story. And if the story's strong, you don't need to blow the budget on a bunch of big CGI shots. You can kind of just, keep it simple, keep it focused, and be economical. There's nothing wrong with economical filmmaking so long as it has a smart story that people genuinely connect to.
Yeah. If you're gonna go this route, it's like maybe focus on the story a little bit more, maybe flesh it out a bit more, and make these characters more rounded, right?
Yeah, stop trying to make Atlas Sarah Connor or Ripley and just make her own character.
There were so many moments where she was so strong coming into her power in this movie. Yeah. But it's when I wrote down in my notes, I was like, it's Ripley. Yeah. Is part of that there for you that she sort of walked so that J-Lo could run?
You can imagine the execs at Netflix 2 years ago meeting with J-Lo, knowing the album's coming, knowing the world tour is coming, knowing that she's back in the press and the tabloids.
Back with Ben Affleck.
Bennifer's back, baby. And so you can imagine them just salivating at the prospect of having a tentpole film with her at a time when everything should have been going her way. So I don't fault them for trying this because that's just good business. That's what Netflix does. They see trends, they sometimes create trends, and they pounce on them. And I don't think anybody else would have made this movie, to be honest with you. Like you said, I don't think other studios would have took the chance on this.
Yeah.
Because it's not quite Avatar in terms of pushing technology forward. The fact that you can spend $100 million primarily on a single person's performance in a mech suit, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But maybe let's tighten up the script next time,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's all we're asking. It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah, maybe don't get Brad Payton to do it. Get anybody else.
Yeah. I take it you're not a fan of Brad Payton?
I just, I looked at his IMDb and I was like, okay, that guy. I see now.
Yeah.
Big, dumb, loud popcorn films.
Yeah, that's like, and it was kind of funny because then I seen how many Rock movies he directed, and I was like, oh, okay, like sort of the same reaction. But yeah, it has that, the Rock feel. Like, and I think his movies kind of all have this play it safe.
Yes.
play it safe and just try to like you said, like big explosions and try to win people over that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him from a hole in the ground, and if he ever listens to this, I apologize for what I'm about to say, but he really strikes me as a yes man to the stars, where the big personality rocks in and says, I want to make a movie like this, and he's like, okay, whatever you say, Mr. Johnson or Mrs. Lopez, like, okay, whatever you say, yeah, we can do that for sure. No, you're doing great, we're just going to do, can we do one more take, Mr. Johnson, please? Can we just, and then the movie comes out and it's 30 or 40% or whatever, and it's, it's like, I don't know, he just strikes me as like, I feel like he's riding this wave of like, like schlock filmmaker to the stars is what it feels like to me.
I never told her where the eye lines were for Smith, so she could look in it. When she was performing, she didn't know that he was going to be there like that. I just let her perform. I built the movie around her.
So something else I was kind of came up for me, Dan.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have anything to offer on this, but I was just reading about the company that Jennifer Lopez competes for roles with. And I guess like Salma Hayek was one of the names thrown out there. Winona Ryder, I think, was one of the names. Like just celebrities who are kind of starting to age out. Well, I shouldn't say starting to age out, like are definitely on that. And they called them the bottom of the A-listers. So, yeah, I thought that was a little bit mean as well. And so I was just thinking, like, kind of in regards to that, like the women who could potentially do this role instead of J-Lo. And I don't think, I for sure could not see like a Salma Hayek in one of these roles, and I think that's a little bit of a testament to Jennifer Lopez's acting range, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. He got my brain thinking about this whole situation differently now.
Yeah.
You know those dad films that come out where it's like Bruce Willis or like Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Every poster is just this aging actor holding a gun and looking off into the distance or whatever.
And it's like he's looking to the side and it's like a silhouette of him almost.
Yeah, are we seeing a new wave of mom films? Is this what's going on? Like the mom action film?
Are moms watching these?
I don't know.
Or is it I still think it's a dad. I think this might still fall under a dad movie. And maybe that's why it did so poorly. Because it didn't appeal to enough dads.
Maybe, but you can bet, and, God bless them, but you can bet somebody watched this and bawled their eyes out at the end when she's saying goodbye to Smith, and pouring her heart out about liking cake and pie.
I was on set day after day making the best, most fun, and emotionally grounded action film it could be, and I'm really, really proud of it. I hope you'll check it out. Atlas on Netflix.
A lot of J-Lo fans would have watched this just to support her and experience the emotion of the movie with her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm extra curious. We should keep an eye on this because if this says anything about the future of this weird little subgenre we've discovered, we could get some good films.
Yeah, I really hope so.
Yeah.
Because I miss those. I miss those early 2000 movies. I miss those like dumb sci-fi movies and just your action sci-fi movie. Like I'll watch one whether it's good or bad, like anytime. It's just my favorite genre of movies. So
yeah,
please keep making them. Please keep taking chances on them.
Yeah, this movie kind of reminded me of. Have you ever seen a movie called Flight of the Navigator?
I have not.
I think it's on Disney Plus, and it's about this boy who kind of, I can't remember if he like steals it, but he somehow ends up in a UFO, and there's a lot of heart to it. It's a genuinely good movie, but a bulk of the story is him slowly bonding with the AI, essentially that is that UFO. Because when he's in it, it's, he has to learn how to fly it, learn how to control it. And it reminded me so much of this movie for some reason. Not in its structure, but just in like the this weird offshoot subgenre of sci-fi where the main character has to bond with some sort of weird technology. You know, you see it in iRobot, like you mentioned, Atlas, Flight of the Navigator,
Real life,
Terminator 2, especially because you know Arnold's T-800 is good, and they have to get over that. And
yeah, sorry, by real life I meant the Neuralink, like Elon Musk's Neuralink.
That's coming, whether we like it or not. I genuinely feel like if AI did become an existential threat to humanity, people would still be using their phones. People would still be using AI.
Oh, yeah. Although I don't know if I would want something in my head, because the AI could hack your brain then, and I don't want that.
Yeah,
hack my phone all you want, but like leave my brain out of this.
Yeah, I think that's where I draw the line too. But it's an interesting commentary. It's probably one of the least clunky commentaries this movie does. It's just the idea that the world's on fire because of AI, but people are still using it to make their coffee. They're still using it to fight wars.
There's an idea of like we have to have a lot of respect when it comes to artificial intelligence. It's just like any technology. I remember in the music business when the internet came around and everybody was like, oh, it's never going to take over music. And it was like, okay, well, that happened.
There's so many analogies you could make to that concept. And I'm not even going to make any because I don't want it to sound like, you know, political at all. But it's definitely something that came to mind of like, you know, people would totally be like this.
Maybe we need to trust the AI a little bit more. Maybe we need AI to take over and govern us because our government isn't doing a good job of it right now anyway. So could it really be worse?
I've listened to a lot of really interesting seminars and podcasts on AI, and there's a pretty compelling argument about having AI as an elected official or like the leader of a country. And it sounds creepy, but you know, if you remove the human element and the corruptibility, you might have something there. But again, that's like entering Black Mirror territory. So it's an interesting conversation, but it makes me wonder how far down the road they got in this universe of this movie before they realized that there were problems with it.
One of the things that I was kind of reading about this is that when they started filming this, AI had not become a thing. Or whenever the director got the script for this movie, it was like maybe about 5 years ago. So AI wasn't really anything at the time.
Well, I had a theory that AI wrote this script to introduce itself to us.
Yeah, you might be right. It would explain a lot.
Well, as we pull this train into the station, another thing I wanted to defend was the world building. I'm such a sucker for like sci-fi world building and sci-fi tech and seeing futuristic movies. I love like the cyberpunk genre, and like iRobot was a really good one for showing, you know, like the evolution of like futuristic cities, tech, everything from clothes, all that stuff. I really love that. And this movie, for all its faults, has one of the most established and lived in feelings I've gotten from a movie in a long time.
What do you mean?
For instance, the evolution of Los Angeles, how there was almost like there was like a new section of LA, and you had these big wind turbine things that spun like DNA, and you had all this neon, but not so much that it was like tacky, and, you know, futuristic advertisements, and her appliances and her home and the way she was interacting with her tech. It all felt really plausible, and that's probably the best way to say it. It all just felt really plausible to me. And I thought that was so cool, to the movie's credit.
Yeah.
Maybe the lore was kind of paper thin with Harlan and everything, but the actual visuals, the world building, like the little like lollipop on a stick meal things that Smith gave her, like stuff like that. I just get such a kick out of that.
Definitely. I 100% agree with that. Dan, let me ask you this. Yeah. What was the deal with the coffee? That was the one thing I was trying to figure out this entire movie. Was it just like was it meant to be like a little side joke, or was it meant, I just couldn't put it together for some reason.
You know, I chalked this up to just like the most pedestrian character writing you could possibly do. I just pictured the screenwriter sitting in a Starbucks somewhere writing this character and being like, what does this character like? And they see their coffee cup in front of them and they're like, oh, she's obsessed with coffee. Like, that's literally how thin I thought this character development was. I was like, I don't think it's anything. I think it's just the equivalent of being like, it's just like some stereotype, I think. Even from like an analytic point of view, you know, if you're operating heavy machinery, you don't want to have like 3 Americanos in your system, you know? Like,
well, no, but the weird thing is, Dan, is she doesn't actually have any coffee.
Doesn't
like
she at the
throughout
beginning?
No, she like that. That's what I'm saying is weird. So if you watch the movie, she goes to get a coffee, and then I think like at the very beginning something happens, and she like doesn't get her coffee. Then she's in the hangar again, and the robot goes to hand her a coffee, and she takes 2 sips, and then says, "This is gross," and like puts it away. And then she goes to get another coffee, but the machine is broken. So she keeps trying to get a coffee, and the coffee machine is broken every single time she goes for it. But at the end of the movie, she like, as the robot is dying, it like hands her a coffee, and she finally gets her coffee at the end. And so I was like, there's something here with this coffee, but I don't know what I'm missing here.
So the real coffee is the friends we made along the way, Aaron.
yeah, something like that. Or like the coffee was her like an what is it? Not an analogy? Is that the right word? No.
Yeah, it might have been like her relationship with technology made.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, it's like she trusts it, so she finally gets her coffee.
Well, I think it's really humanizing to have a character want something super normal throughout the length of the movie, and it kind of eludes them. It's like that one Die Hard movie. I think it's the 3rd one where John McClane has a headache the entire movie and basically spends the entire movie needing a Tylenol. He doesn't get one till like the very end. It's just like a little tack on to kind of make the character more humanized. But in this...
Yeah, that makes sense. I think at the end of this movie, more than anything else, I was just rooting for her to get her coffee. That's what I wanted to see.
Oh, Aaron. Planty should have been a coffee bean plant.
Oh, now you're talking.
Dude, they missed a gift-wrapped payoff. If that had been a coffee bean and Mark Strong comes in with it and he's like, you'll never guess what we did with that plant that you labeled. And she suddenly has a lifetime supply of Andromeda Galaxy cold brew or something.
Yeah.
No.
And then she takes a sip of it and it's like, this is out of this world.
And winks at the camera and we go to black.
Yeah, and a little Folgers ad rolls across the screen. Wow, we should write commercials, Dad.
Oh, man. They had it. They were right there. And they didn't do it. That's crazy. That's going to haunt me for the rest of my life, Aaron. That not happening in this movie.
Yeah. You know, you bring up another point for a plot hole, because there was plants on this planet, but like they couldn't breathe the oxygen.
Yeah.
How does that work? Or, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe you could chalk it up to like another planet. So, I don't know, maybe a plant consumes something else other than carbon dioxide and emits something else other than oxygen. I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, that plant's not going to last more than a day on Earth back in her apartment.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Again, there's so many biomes on this planet. And what's the distance that she covers? I don't remember, but it's not so far that the biomes should be changing as much as they do in this movie.
I want to say it's like something like 80 kilometers.
Yeah.
Or miles? Something like that.
The amount of things that happen on this planet, it seems pretty intense for 80 miles or 80 kilometers. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it really was.
Yeah.
Well, Dan?
Yeah, Aaron, so before we check out, do you have a WTF movie for this film?
The very last scene when she's like, I like both, and then obviously refers to the cake and the pie there. And then she goes off to tell how she likes both, and the thing about AI and humans is she actually hates both of them.
She hates everyone.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, I don't know if that was like a WTF moment or if I was like, hell yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a little bit weird. Yeah, it was a little
Harlan
bit weird
was
for
right.
me, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Screw technology, but I would say that was the closest for me. What about you?
Yeah, that moment was so funny because they try to kind of rip off Terminator 2.
No, don't do it. Please, don't go.
I must go away, John.
No! No, wait. Wait, you don't have to do this.
Sorry.
No, don't do it. Don't go.
It has to end here.
I order you not to go. I order you not to go. I order you not to go. We're getting out of here together.
Atlas, my primary protocol is to keep my Ranger alive. Deactivation initiated.
Stop! Please stop!
Disabling all online systems. Meds, hydraulics, neural link.
Smith, I order you to stay with me.
Redirecting to auxiliary O2.
And then, yeah, just the truth is I hate everybody. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So in my WTF moment, Atlas and Elias, Sterling K. Brown's character, are like strapped to these two torture chairs, and she manages to awaken Smith, and Smith comes bursting through the wall, and both her and Elias are choking to death because their oxygen is depleted, and it shows the meters on their necks are like run down to like 0, right?
Yeah.
So Smith bursts through the wall, and rather than immediately save Elias and like get him oxygen, she gets into Smith and then does a status report. She's like, she just jumps in and she's like, "Oh, Smith, status report. How we doing? How are your systems and everything?" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like Elias is dying on the table, and they just don't address it. Like they just move to the next scene. Like
I like that. I didn't catch that, but no, that definitely is funny.
That was the moment I knew her character grew up, because now she was like, screw humans. I'm going to see how the AI is doing.
Well, Dad, so what would you rate this?
Oh, this is a hard one to rate.
Yeah.
I struggled with this movie in some unexpected ways. Like the pacing, it really drug out for a while there. As soon as she gets down to the planet, the movie just, it tanks and it stays tanked for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was also some really beautiful visuals and some interesting set pieces. I thought the mechs fighting in the air while they're kind of plummeting was really cool. And I liked Sterling K. Brown. I thought he was good. I thought Simu Liu
was excellent.
Did a great job with what he had, as little as he had.
Yeah.
I will give this 5 cups of coffee out of a possible 12 cups of coffee.
Okay. That's very much like a 50% rating. And I was going to say, like, if I was to give this movie an actual rating, it'd be around that 5 out of 10, 50%. It's not bad. I don't think it's as bad as everyone kind of rates it to be.
Oh, yeah.
I think obviously it fell victim to just trying to do too much.
Yeah.
But overall, like, it wasn't that bad. It was a little long, but I think that 50% mark would probably be what I would give it.
Yeah. Sorry, one more thing I see in my notes here that I just wanted to mention is I thought it was really interesting seeing an AI with existential beliefs that kind of surpassed those of the human that they were confronting. At the end there, Simu Liu had a much stronger philosophical grip on like the nature of existence than the human character did. And I just thought that was interesting. I wanted more of that, because that's the kind of stuff I'm into, the philosophical, like asking the big Star Trek style questions, like let's go there, And so I liked that moment where you really got the sense that he was a deeper thinker than the movie let him be. And I was like, there was so much there.
And it's a shame that Brad Payton didn't rely more on Simu Liu and even Sterling K. Brown's character more. They are fantastic actors, and they definitely deserved way more screen time than they got. And I think that if they would have carried a little bit more weight for this movie, it would have took it like another step.
I agree. Well, Aaron, let's get this episode online before the AI terrorists knock it off.
Yeah. And that is if, we're not already AI. Who knows?
Who knows?
You never seen my face. You don't know.
So that is 2024's Netflix's J-Lo's Atlas. And thanks so much, you guys. I hope you're enjoying the new episodes. Feel free to check out our social media. It's all in the show notes. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Reddit. And we can always count on us posting some pretty funny memes on our Instagram page. So be sure to check those out. Mm-hmm. Please drop a like and a subscribe, and please leave us a rating. It helps the show reach more people. And if you like what you hear, please share it with somebody. Until next time, this has been In Defense of a Movie Podcast.
Bye.
You want me to say it on camera? Say it. I look like I'm a boy from Jersey Shore. Yeah, that's what she said. Beep. Are you happy now? We're happy now.